Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Nurse Mellitus and I am back with another video for you guys. If you are new here, welcome and welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe so that you can officially join the Nurse Mellitus family. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all are the real G's. Thank you so much for coming back. We love having you here. And yeah, welcome to everyone. This is a space where we share information, we empower each other by giving education about things that are very crucial and that are good to know in this life. So if you are here watching this video, you are at the right place. And I want to thank every one of you guys who has subscribed to my channel. 92 subscribers. Wow, I didn't expect this. Thank you so much, guys. Continue subscribing, continue joining my family, and yeah man, let's do this thing on the road to 100k subscribers. So today we are talking about diabetes. Diabetes is something that a lot of people know. We all know it. A lot of people are actually living with diabetes, and it is something that is manageable. It is a medical condition that is manageable, but it's important to also note that it is a medical condition that can be prevented. So, and I'm doing this video because November was diabetes month, and so that's why I decided that it's important for me to do a video on diabetes. Alright, so I don't know how long this video is going to take because I have a lot of information to give you. So I might divide this video into a part 1 and a part 2 so that it's a bit manageable and the information is manageable. So yeah, this will be the first part, and then we'll see where we'll end this video when I actually edit it. So yeah, that is what we are talking about today. So if you are interested in hearing about this or learning more about diabetes, do stay and watch this video till the end. And if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell so that you can know whenever I post a video. And please don't forget to share my videos with other people so that they can be able to get a hold of this very crucial information. So without any further ado, let's get on right to the video. I actually decided that I want to branch out a little from pregnancy. If you've been a part of my channel from the start, you would know that I am very passionate about midwifery. I'm a passionate midwife. So I love all things pregnancy, and I've been doing a lot of videos on the pregnancy series. And if you haven't watched my videos, please do start following the pregnancy series. I will post one video up here so that you can be able to watch one of those videos. And I think the last video I did on the pregnancy series was on danger signs in pregnancy, so that's very important to know, and please check it out. And then my previous video I did was on cervical cancer screening, so I was talking about pap smears. If you are a woman, if you're in your 30s, you haven't had a pap smear before, please do go and watch that video. It's very, very important, and you will learn more about cervical cancer, pap smears, and all of that jazz. So I'm also going to link up that video over here. Alright, so now let's get into today's video on diabetes. So I will be answering 5 questions on this topic of diabetes, and the first question will be, or the first question that I'm going to answer is going to be, what are the types of diabetes? What is diabetes? And what are the types of diabetes? And then the second question that I will answer is, what causes diabetes and who is at risk of getting it? And then the third question will be, what are the symptoms of diabetes? And fourthly, what are the complications of uncontrolled diabetes? And then the last question, the fifth question, will be, how can we prevent diabetes? So let's get on to answering the first question. What is diabetes and what are the different types of diabetes that exist? So in basic terms, diabetes is when you are having a high blood sugar level, right? So we get sugar or glucose from the food that we eat. After eating, the glucose goes into your bloodstream, and then what happens is that it moves from the bloodstream into the cells of your body so that it can be used for fuel to make energy, right? So the end product of glucose is energy. So our bodies need it. But now what happens in diabetes? In this whole process, what goes wrong when a person is having diabetes? So in our bodies, we have a hormone that is secreted by the insulin. I'll insert a picture up here that shows the location of the insulin in our bodies. Location of the pancreas. So we have this organ in our bodies, which is called the pancreas, and the pancreas secretes the hormone insulin. So insulin is very important in regulating the blood levels of glucose, right? After you eat, insulin is secreted by your pancreas, and it causes the blood sugar to move from your bloodstream into the cells where it is used to make energy, right? So now in diabetes, there is either no insulin being produced by the pancreas, or number two, the insulin is produced but the cells are not responding to the insulin, or not enough insulin is produced. Now that means that the sugar stays in your blood and it doesn't go into the cells to give you energy, and causes a lot of complications which we know about diabetes. So that's basically what diabetes is and how things actually go wrong in the body. So we have three types of diabetes. We have diabetes type 1, we have diabetes type 2, and gestational diabetes, which is diabetes that comes about when a person is pregnant. So those are the types of diabetes that we have. So let's now go on to the second question and talk about what are the causes, or what causes diabetes, and who is at risk of getting diabetes. And I am going to focus on the different types and talk about each of them as I go along. Alright, so let's talk about type 1 diabetes. So what causes diabetes type 1 and who's at risk of getting it? So usually diabetes type 1, it is caused by an autoimmune disease. So an autoimmune disease is when your own immune system attacks the cells of your body or starts attacking your own organs instead of attacking external things like viruses and infections, right? So it starts attacking your own organs. So what happens is that the pancreas, since it's the one that secretes insulin and is important in regulating your blood sugar, what happens if you have this condition, it will attack the cells of your pancreas. Now that will lead to your pancreas not being able to secrete this hormone insulin. And if there's no insulin, then your blood sugar levels are going to stay high, and that gives rise to type 1 diabetes. So usually the people who get type 1 diabetes is people who are born to parents that had or have diabetes type 1. And it usually comes about at a very early age. So you'll find that it's those people that you go to school with that have diabetes and they're injecting insulin, right? Yeah, so I used to know someone who I was in school with when I was in, I think, high school. Yeah, she had diabetes and she had type 1 diabetes, so she had to inject. And she had it like for many years when we were in school. So it comes on early in life, and that is type 1 diabetes. What about type 2 diabetes? So type 2 diabetes, it has an adult onset. So you get type 2 diabetes when you are an adult. And it usually comes about because of lifestyle and some other things that have to do with you as an individual, like your family history and your genes. So I think I'm gonna dwell a bit on type 2 diabetes and talk about like the different causes of it and how it gives rise to diabetes. The first thing that I want to talk about that puts a person at risk of having type 2 diabetes is the age. And why does a person's age put them at risk of having type 2 diabetes? So it has to do with your weight. The older you get, the more weight you gain and the more at risk you are of getting diabetes. And I'm going to talk about why weight is so important in diabetes. So that's the first thing, right? Your age. And then your family history is also something that puts you at risk of having type 2 diabetes. And this is because of your genes, because your genes affect how your body breaks down food. Your genes affect how much weight you gain. Your genes affect your body structure and where weight is going to be stored in your body. So your family history controls things like that. And on this point, I want to talk a bit on the amount of fat in the body. So with diabetes, a lot of the people who get diabetes are people who have a lot of weight in the area of the abdomen and the trunk. And this is because if there is a lot of fat tissue around the specific area, what will happen is that people will have a lot of fat surrounding the organs. So here in this area of the body, we have our vital organs. We have our heart, we have our livers, we have our stomachs. Our pancreas is also here, as I said, and we have so many other organs. So what happens when a person is having a lot of fat in this area, which we call visceral fat? It's the most dangerous fat to have because it's the one that surrounds our internal organs. And now what happens with diabetes type 2 is that people become resistant to insulin. So even though the pancreas, as I mentioned before, it does secrete insulin, but the problem now is that the cells do not respond to the insulin that is produced. And that usually happens when there's a lot of fatty tissue in this area. And it also affects the production of insulin from the pancreas. So when it comes to your family history affects where fat is stored in your body. It affects how much fat becomes stored. So it affects all those things like that. So if you have people in your family that have that kind of body structure where a lot of fat is stored in this area, most likely you're also going to, because of your genes, have the weight being stored here. And that now also puts you at risk of having diabetes type 2 if there is someone in your family that has diabetes, right? And then another thing that I want to talk about that also causes diabetes is your gender, whether you are male or female, because your gender affects how fat is stored in your body. And what happens with males have a lot more, they tend to have fat being stored in this trunk, in the trunk of their bodies, as opposed to women who tend to have fat being stored in their arms, in their thighs, and in their hips. And that's why you will find that women will have bigger arms, bigger thighs, bigger hips. So now if you are having a lot of fat being stored around this area, you will be at risk of having diabetes because of what I mentioned. And then your nutritional status, like where you fall in, if you are overweight or obese, you are also at risk of having diabetes. And most importantly, the people who are having fat being stored here in this area, as I said. And I did talk about how you can know whether you are overweight or obese according to the BMI classification, which I spoke about in one of my videos on preparing for pregnancy. I will link it up here so that you can be able to know more about the BMI and see how it compares your weight and your height to calculate whether you are overweight or of normal weight or obese or underweight. And then I also mentioned in that video that there is a lot of controversy around BMI, and also because it's not so precise, because a person can have a normal BMI and still have diabetes, and that could be because of where fat is stored in their body, which is called the fat distribution. So you can be a person that has a normal BMI, but if you are having a lot of fat being stored around here, then you might be at risk of having diabetes. And then you could also be someone who, when we are looking at BMI, you are either overweight or obese according to BMI, but you'll find that your chances are less of getting diabetes, possibly because of where fat distribution in your body is. It's less here and more in other areas, so that also affects your risk. So let me go on to the next cause now of having diabetes, which is your diet. And your diet is something that puts you at risk of having diabetes because it will affect your weight. And depending on your genes and where your weight will be stored, you'll be at risk of having diabetes. So if you are having a diet that is high in sugar, high in fat, high in carbohydrates, and you're finding that you're eating excess of all these things that are not good, you're eating more than you actually need, because as I said before, we do need sugar, we do need glucose for energy. But if you're eating more than what you actually need, and I'm talking about your sugar and talking about your carbohydrates specifically, then they are going to be stored as excess fat. So if you are eating more than your body actually needs to give you energy, it will be stored in your body. And now that's where you're going to get weight gain. And also, if you are eating a diet that's high in fats that are not good for you, there are some good fats, there are bad fats. But if you're eating a lot of fats that are not good for you, like fats that you can find in things like cakes, in snacks, all those things, then you put yourself at risk of and especially if you are eating in excess more than you actually need, and then your body stores everything, then you'll be at risk of having diabetes. And then another thing, your physical activity is something that is also very important. And how does physical activity relate to your risk for having diabetes? People who are less physically active, and by being active I mean exercise, they are less likely to burn the calories or burn the fat that is already in the body. So it will be accumulating. It puts you at risk of having diabetes. Whereas if you are a person that is physically active, then you will lose all of those extra calories, and then you lose weight, and then perhaps your risk might be decreased. So now you'll find that some people have a lot of these things. Maybe they are overweight and their diet is also not good. They are not physically active, and also their age, they are older, more than your 40s, and they have a family history of diabetes. And now the more risk you have, the more of these risk factors that you have, the more at risk are you to have diabetes, right? And so even when it comes to trying to prevent diabetes, a person will have to focus on these risk factors. Obviously, there are things that we cannot control, like our family history of genes, our genes and how fat is stored in our body and how much weight we gain. But there are other things that we can actually control, like our physical activity, exercise. We can control our diet. If we could focus on the things that we can control, then it can be able to help us decrease our risk as much as we can if possible, right? So those are the things that put a person at risk for getting diabetes. So yeah, that is it about who is at risk of having diabetes and what causes diabetes. So in the second part of this video, I will be talking about the following. What are the complications? What are the symptoms of diabetes? And how can we prevent? So please do make sure that you tune into the second part of this video so that you can find out this very, very crucial information. And now in the second video, we'll be talking about application. So you better make sure that you stick around, watch this video, and enjoy.